Someone in chat mentioned this before I started stream, so I didn't have time to actually look into it, but I found the article regarding it. I think this is the same one. But transgender children families rally outside Texas Capitol Governor's Mansion. The Trans Kids Cry for Help rally was organized after Governor Greg Abbott directed the Child Protective Services Agency to investigate trans minors receiving certain types of medical care. I like how they phrase it like medical care. What if you rephrased it as sterilization? Because that's basically what it is if you're giving kids hormones. It's sterilization. So how come it's medical care and not sterilization? I just don't see how it's medically beneficial to sterilize children. But you know, let's continue here. This is in Austin, so not by me. More than 200 people showed up Governor Greg Abbott's doorstep Sunday with a message: leave transgender children alone. They are, by not sterilizing you. The rally dubbed Trans Kids Cry for Help. Okay, I reject this okay, listen, YouTube, I'm not being transphobic. I'm saying with kids in particular, with trans kids as a concept, I reject this concept. You can be gender dysphoric as a kid, for sure. But to transition, like physically go through and make body alterations when you're a child, I reject this concept completely. That is too dangerous. That's too high. Like, yeah, maybe it'll end up good, but the risk to reward ratio is too skewed. It's like too high of a risk, too low of a reward. It says the rally dubbed Trans Kids Cry for Help was a colorful, ebullient, never heard this word in my life, ebullient and at times indignant response to Abbott's order telling Child Protective Services, CPS, to investigate the families of transgender minors receiving certain medical treatments. The state opened up at least 9 abuse probes in response, with families of one trans teenager suing to block the directive. Tracy and Matt, a couple who declined to give their last name for fear of investigation, came to the rally. Oh, you know what I do when I want to make sure I don't get arrested? I show up to rallies. Anyway, came to the rally from nearby shirts to show support for their 12-year-old transgender son. And also in regards to someone in chat mentioned hormone blockers, I'm against that too. You are stunting a kid's development on the off chance that what they feel is reflecting on how they're going to feel in over a decade from then. Like, I'm not for that. I'm not down with that at all. They said the people with the 12-year-old son that want to be anonymous. We came for our son who was too scared, Tracy said. Why is he scared? I mean, I can understand maybe rallies are a dangerous place, but I don't really think that that's where they're getting at with this. I think when they're saying he's too scared, I get the impression of a kid that's been fed a lot of propaganda and is like fearing the world and everyone's like a demon and terrible. Kind of like how with Trump, like a lot of kids were like crying and like, Mommy, Trump's gonna kill us. And the parents don't do anything to console them. They're just like, yes, I know, dear. So that's what it kind of reminds me of when they say their son was too scared. I don't think it's because it's a rally per se. I think it's because of like the fear mongering and the brainwashing in general. While they're concerned about being targeted by the state, the parents said they would not be pressured to change the care they've sought for him. If they come to our door, we're going to fight, Tracy said. Oh, this is the hill you die on? I mean, might be the hill their son dies on a decade later once they find out the trauma of like, hey, I never fully developed and I don't feel this way anymore, because that often does happen. So, which is morbid to say, not a good thing. So they think they're pushing for a good thing, but it's really not. Don't mess with trans kids. Healthcare is not abuse. Defend trans rights. How is that a right? How is stunting a kid's growth a right? Like, it's not going to save their life. It's not like, oh, they have cancer and they need to stop the growth because it'll stop the tumor. How is that? I don't see how that's necessary. Like, they don't need it. Like, they're not going to die if they don't get it. You could say maybe it'll affect their mental health later on, but I think there's a higher risk of affecting it when they're literally stunted Children should be able to grow normally in their bodies without the risk of like, well, you're an adult now, it's too late, it's already fucked. Like, at least there's a chance that they'll feel differently when they're grown up, and then they can make the decision. And also, I remember hearing Joe Rogan talk about this. He says something along the lines of, most people who feel gender dysphoric when they're men end up just being gay men when they grow up a lot of the time. So that's a factor to consider, because it could be a hormonal thing. You guys have to understand that hormones basically dictate everything. That's why women go crazy with PMS a lot of time. Some women become suicidal because of, some women become unaliving themselves, is what I should say, when their PMS comes around, premenstrual symptoms, because the hormones mess up your brain, and like a few days before your period, some women go crazy. Like, for example, I always cry like a day before mine. And you won't even realize why until later. That's how crazy your hormones can be. It dictates your entire mood. It dictates how you look. It dictates everything. Hormones are very, very important. So it's very much a big deal when you're messing with them, when they dictate everything about your body, basically. It says, Abbott issued his order on the heels of a non-binding opinion from Attorney General Ken Paxton. I was just talking about that last name. Who interpreted the state's child abuse law to include certain types of gender-affirming medical treatments for minors. The governor also warned those who may come into contact with trans kids, like teachers, doctors, said it's a crime to fail to report child abuse. Well, yeah, that makes sense. That kind of makes sense. I don't see how that doesn't make sense. The order was sowed fear among parents, but left those tasked with implementing it with many questions. You know, you really have to wonder how this wasn't a problem like 80 years ago. Like, we didn't have this issue. Would you be having rallies about this 80 years ago? And it's not like, oh, it's because they're oppressed or whatever. No, like, it just simply didn't exist. Like, and if it did, it was like an incredibly small number. Basically didn't exist. Like, you had people that maybe dressed up, like boys that dress up like girls, but like, how come this is suddenly a thing? Why is it magically like, oh, suddenly kids like feel gender dysphoric? Well, what's making them feel gender dysphoric out of nowhere? You're telling me they were all just oppressed and hiding? Like, no, that doesn't make sense. Clearly there's an influence happening that makes kids think that they are that makes them feel gender dysphoric. Whether you want to argue it's like them touching too many receipts, or fluoride in the water, or just like propaganda or general influence from the internet. You know, it just didn't, it just came out of nowhere. They're just magically like 10 times the amount of cases. How do you explain that? I would love to know their explanation. On Friday, state district court judge overseeing the lawsuit challenging the state put abuse investigations on hold, but Paxton immediately appealed the ruling and said his move would allow these probes to continue unabated. Like, why are you in Texas? Honestly, if you are such a believer in ruining your child's development, you're fucking them up permanently, potentially, because they might not be happy with the result afterwards, like 10 years later. Like, why are you in Texas for that? What are you doing in Texas? Literally go to all these other coastal states. Go to California. Go to New York. Go to anywhere in New England except for like Maine and New Hampshire, maybe. Like, you have all these other big states that you could do this in. Why in Texas? Like, for example, guys, if I wanted to homeschool my kids, do you think I would be having children in New York? No, I would go to a state where homeschooling's easy. Do you think I would go to Massachusetts if I wanted to homeschool my kids? No. I would go to a state where I could do that. So it doesn't really make sense to me. Like, why? Don't be in Texas then. I know it's like, oh, people have lives attached here, blah, blah, blah. But like, if that's your political leaning and it's so important to you to mess with your kids' fucking hormones and to stop them from properly developing, like, why be in just don't be in Texas at that point. If it's such a priority, go to California. Go shit it up there. Kids wearing trans and rainbow pride flags at capes ran around under a warm afternoon sun, while adults, is that nice? You know, that's what kids should be doing. You know, they had it right here, running around in the warm afternoon sun. Perhaps they should do that more. Adults held signs that proclaimed this teacher will not comply. A bot is a useless clownish bully. You're a bully. You're a meanie. In front of the set of stairs leading up to the mansion where speakers gave testimonials, the recordings of anonymous trans kids telling the stories spilled down the huge loudspeaker. 2 transgender Texans stood silent vigil. One held a sign of the words God's plan embezzled in a blue, pink, white transgender pride flag. God's plan? I'm pretty sure God's plan was the gender you were born with. Isn't that kind of how he made you? Isn't that God's plan? Didn't he plan for you to be when you were born with a penis or vagina? I mean, unless you're a hermaphrodite, then maybe you could argue that's God's plan. Because then, I could choose one. Because a lot of when hermaphrodites are born, the doctors say you have to pick a gender for them. And so I think that would be the only time where there's wiggle room for, like, God's plan in that one. Well, shit. That's probably the weakest argument I've heard. It's God's plan. The rally took, like, I'm sorry, but, like, you're literally making body modifications. You're literally physically altering yourself to a severe degree. How is that God's plan? Doesn't even make sense. The rally at times took on decidedly political tone, with speakers urging voters to back Abbott's Democratic challenger Beto and volunteers helping attendees register a vote. They just really want to shit up every state possible. With South by Southwest kicking off this weekend. Okay. Author and non-binary activist Alec Vide-Minon, who is from College Station, told the transgender Texans in the audience to turn away from politicians who question their existence toward each other for support. You mean children? Should have included children in that, because that's kind of what this article's about. Let's not go under the presumption that this is consensual. Guys, we're really in the era of times where we have to constantly remind people that children can't consent. Why is this an idea that we have to revisit? We kind of already figured it out, that children are not in the right mindset to consent because they're underdeveloped. It's essentially like a special ed adult to a severe degree. Like, they are severely mentally handicapped adult. That's the comparison of what a child is. They're very, very much like behind. Like, they're not in the mindset. And I think it's because these people are, like, mentally children. And that's why. And they're kind of, like, projecting. I mean, like, look at how they talk. Like, up here, they were like, he's a big bully. The reason they hunt us is because we love. Really? Oh, you think that's the reason? Way to demonize. Okay, so if I don't support a child getting stunted in their growth, if I don't believe that that's medical care because it does nothing to benefit them or save their life on a physical level, then I don't know how to love. They hate us. They hunt us because we love. You love giving your kids mental illness is what you love. Yeah, that's what you love. It has nothing to do with people not being able to love. If anything, you don't have love because you're fucking up your children potentially forever. Talking about we know how to love. How is that love? A lot of these people also, by the way, will project onto their kids. Like, you'll see transgender parents, a lot of them, like I remember seeing, I don't remember what it was called, but I remember seeing it was like a big thing. A lot of YouTubers covered it, where these like transgender parents had a transgender kid, but the kid was like 1 year old. And it's like, you're literally projecting onto the child. How is that love? How is that love? You know, we know how to love. Yeah, that's how you're going to phrase it. Medically fucking up your kid, that's knowing how to love. By not letting them mature. It's not because we're insufficient. It's not because we're broken. It's not because we're It's because we've template a form of loving, looking, and living that it's so revolutionary, transcendent, miraculous, and spectacular. I would love to retort to this and ask why. Why is it miraculous and spectacular? Like, they're making it seem like making a kid not only like stunt their growth and sterilize them, but also like them having to have surgeries to physically change their appearance. Like, as if that wouldn't cause dysphoria too, right? But that's somehow like miraculous and spectacular. Yeah, maybe if you're going to a fucking circus. What the fuck do you think this is? This is why it's clown world. This is literally why it's clown world. You know, and people who are even not gender dysphoric, they're just regular dysphoric, they have body issues, right? And you see people all the time addicted to plastic surgery, getting like 10 different surgeries, getting 3 different nose jobs and this and that, and they're mentally ill, they're dysphoric. They're not gender dysphoric, but they're dysphoric. That's not healthy. So why would you want to do that type of shit onto a kid or influence them to do that and encourage that? Like, how is that loving a kid? If you love a kid, you want what's best for them. That's not what's best for them. You're literally making them dysphoric. That's not healthy. That's literally suffering. And I would like to think that anybody who's transgender could back that up, that it's not a pleasant experience to be gender dysphoric. The state of dysphoria is like a discomfort with oneself or circumstance. Like, it distresses you. Why would you want a kid to be distressed? Why would you want a kid to go through that? That doesn't even make sense. These arguments don't make sense. They're literally delusional. They're slapping any pretty sounding word on it. Oh, it's revolutionary, transcendent, miraculous, spectacular, amazing. Like, they're making it seem like they're fucking reaching nirvana by inflicting mental illness onto their children. Dysphoria is not a fun experience. Like, people are dysphoric every day. That's not fun. Why would you want your kid to be dysphoric? I don't get it. It says, they hate us because we love. A half dozen individuals from Alex Jones' InfoWars, a far-right conspiracy theory website based in Austin, gotta love that intro, at times attempted to grab attention from rally speakers. The rally attendees created a human wall in response, blocking InfoWars host Owen Schroyer and a few other men with bullhorns to freely disrupting the gathering. I mean, yeah, if there's a gathering to, hey, let's encourage giving our kids depression and dysphoria. I feel like that's grounds to kind of disrupt that. I'm gonna have to back that up. Like, I understand it's everyone's right to peacefully protest, but this is not peaceful. This is treading on other people's kids. Like, you're trying to enable child abuse and let it be legal. So I think that's fair game. So good on Owen Schroyer and Alex Jones for that. We gather here to remind one another we are resilient. We are powerful. They just love this shit. They love being the victim. They get off on this. They're literally jerking off to this. That's what's so sickening about these people. And we are full of righteous anger. Righteous anger. We gather here to raise the voices of transgender children who are in need of our protection. That is ironic. That is very ironic. Said Johnson, a trans woman. This is our state. This is our time. This is our space. Our space. It's about us. I mean, it's about the children. Yeah, okay. That was the worst thing I've ever read.